Well, hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Dwayne Butcher of Lean Frontiers, and I'll serve as your host today. I'm excited to bring to you today a short webinar where we're going to discuss Toyota Kata and its relation to the HR function, facilitated by one of North America's most experienced Kata facilitators, Beth Carrington. Beth has a number of executive leadership positions in personal care, furniture manufacturing, and the automotive industries. I'm also pleased that we have MJ Green with us. MJ is the HR manager for Aerojet Ordnance. So today they will be delivering our short presentation. We will set aside a short amount of time at the end of the presentation for some Q&A. If you do have questions, please submit them using the toolbar, and I'll field those questions toward the end. It would be most helpful if you could submit those questions well before we end the webinar to give time to process the questions. So for now, though, let me turn things over to Beth. Beth?
Oh, good morning, or I should say good afternoon for some of you. Good morning for me out here on the West Coast, and MJ, good morning or good afternoon to you there in the East Coast or Eastern Time Zone. Let's see, as I was introduced, my name is Beth Carrington. I'm with the W3 group. I'm one of the partners. Been a consultant and trainer since 1999, and I've been lucky enough to have been working and coaching organizations in their development of deliberate or desired cultures for decades. And I've specifically been incorporating the learnings and embedded in the book called Toyota Kata, written by Mike Rother. And luckily, I've been able to practice and learn from Mike and others since 2008. So I've been a Toyota Kata practitioner and master coach since 2008. I'd like to introduce MJ, Mary J. Green. And MJ, you want to say hi to everyone? And maybe give an introduction for yourself.
Hello, everybody. I am, of course, the HR manager here at Aerojet Ordnance, Tennessee, if you didn't guess that by my accent already. I have 20-plus years of experience with human resources and have been with Aerojet for over 27 years. Completed Toyota Kata practitioner training with Beth, and also am a member of the Aerojet Ordnance Tennessee Toyota Kata Advanced Team, where I have performed coaching and second coaching.
Excellent. Great, MJ. When did we first deploy there at AOT? Do you remember the date?
It was June 3 years ago.
3 years. So you've been a practitioner for 3 years. That's great. Looking forward to sharing some of your insights from the HR perspective as we go through the presentation. So I think you've got some great direct observations you can share with the group. And anytime as I'm going through, MJ, don't hesitate to jump in. I know you've got some great perspectives on this, and I'm sure everyone on the call would love to hear from you. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. So let me start by kind of laying out, I want everyone to kind of put on their imagination station hats, okay? Imagine an organization with a culture of innovation and adaptiveness, where the members of the organization are aligned in achieving tough, challenging objectives. Oftentimes, these are called breakthrough objectives. And those objectives are alignment with top leadership's vision of the organization decades into the future, right? So everyone, innovation, adaptiveness is the daily routine. Members all achieving these tough, challenging objectives and all in alignment with top leadership's vision. You know, some of the characteristics of that culture that we would see is everybody feels part of a team, right? If we're not all marching to a common good, we just can feel disenfranchised or disengaged. But with this kind of a culture, everyone feels part of a team. right? Senior leadership's vision and organizational activities are absolutely aligned. Strategy and continuous improvement activities are connected. We don't have random continuous improvement events, but rather continuous improvement events and, continuous improvement activities directly in alignment with the organizational strategy. Let's see. We have a quick cycle, nearly daily, in most cases, improvement occurring across the organization. And we have an organization focused on developing skills of innovation, adaptiveness, and continuous improvement, and developing that skill across the entire organization. This kind of an organization is a reflection of the mindset of the members of the organization, a mindset where people enthusiastically take on bigger and bigger challenges, developing new organizational capabilities with a real sense of self-efficacy. And by self-efficacy, I mean a belief in their own capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance results. And these performance results are beyond our current level of performance, levels of performance we've never achieved before. And what happens with practicing more and more of these behaviors, developing, per se, the skill, the self-efficacy improves, and people become more and more comfortable striving for results they do not yet know how to achieve. Kind of out there in their zone of uncertainty, not deploying what we already know how to do, but actually striving for something we do not yet know how to do. The necessary behaviors have been deliberately practiced under the guidance of a qualified and vested coach, and the behaviors are based on the scientific methodology where members traverse this uncharted territory. In this display, I'm calling it the gray zone, where we traverse and move through this uncharted territory, not just implementing tools or applying solutions developed by others, but rather going on a journey of discovery to identify innovative, original ways to overcome obstacles on their way to previously unachieved levels of performance. So now that we've envisioned that challenge, that vision of that innovative adapture, to me it sounds kind of, wow, grandiose, utopian, a little daunting. And how do we get from where we are to that kind of a culture across a broad range of organizations? And this kind of culture and cultural development has actually been studied, summarized, and operationalized. And it's been actually published in a book called Kata, written by Mike Rotter. I think it's been out since about 2008, 2009, and it's been gaining worldwide recognition for its insightful perspective, as well as its ability to help operationalize what kinds of behaviors would lead to a mindset in an individual that could be replicated across an organization to build this very specific culture based on managing people for improvement, adaptiveness, and superior results. And embedded in that book, Mike really introduces the operationalized or routine behaviors broken into two categories that we're going to cover this morning. One is the improvement kata, the other is the companion coaching kata. We're also going to cover how human resources can play a critical and leadership role in the deployment of these behaviors and these routines across the organization. So those are my two kind of, what MJ and I want to share is what are these, what do they look like, and then how does human resources, or how can human resources play a leadership role in deploying these across an organization. So let's start with Kata. You're going to hear me say this word over and over again throughout this presentation this morning. And kata is a word, it's a phrase that means a way of doing. And a kata is a routine you practice so that it becomes a habit. Through practicing the pattern of a kata, it becomes second nature. It's done with little or no conscious attention. It's quick memory, readily available, almost automatic, autopilot kind of responses. But the only you get kind of that quick draw on a particular behavior is to practice it over and over again. And that is what the improvement kata is. It's a routine that you can practice so that that way of thinking and acting just becomes second nature. And it's a meta routine, meaning that it's really content neutral. This means that it can be used on any kind of process that you may have in your organization, whether that process is transactional, manual, cerebral, in healthcare, or manufacturing, or product development, or project management, whatever kind of processes you have, this routine can be applied over the top. And it's process neutral, meaning it can be the very smallest within your organization, 1 or 2 or 10-step process, or it could be higher level strategic processes, or what you may call value streams. The routine of the improvement kata and its companion coaching is applicable to any type of process you can find within your organization. So let's take a look at what those routines are. We have 2 main players we're going to talk about today. One is what we call the learner. I like to think of this as the natural process owner. It could be someone working in the process, it could be someone supervising the process, or engineering the process. It's basically the natural process owner. And they're going to go through a series of routines or steps within the improvement kata, but they're going to be coached along the way by this qualified and vested coach. And we'll talk more what I mean by qualified and vested or invested coach a little bit later on in the presentation. So here are the routines a little bit more closely. The first routine is to understand the direction. This is about grasping an understanding of where this process needs to be performing so that the organization can achieve its breakthrough objectives, what in kata terms we call the challenge. And as the learner, as the natural process owner, I have to understand the ultimate direction the organization is going. Then I have to grasp the current condition as it relates to that vision and challenge. So it kind of helps scope the extent of process analysis I'm going to do. So I grasp my current condition as it relates to that vision and challenge. And then I establish a next target condition, somewhere between where I am and where I'm ultimately going. It's kind of an iterative interim step between where I am and where I ultimately need to go, a little bit closer in time. And then the fourth routine I practice is a plan, do, check, act, also called PDCA. It's setting up an experiment, setting up a hypothesis around that experiment, then doing the experiment, then checking or comparing what I expected to happen to what actually happened, and that's our moment of learning, and then I act on what I've learned, moving me forward, overcoming obstacles on my way to a target condition. Here's another way to look at it. Out here on the right-hand side, we have this far away, vague vision. could be decades out. Closer in, we have a challenge. And as a learner, I have to understand what that vision and challenge is. Then I grasp my current condition. I set an interim target condition, and then I overcome obstacles through experimentation between where I am and my target condition. A little bit more detail. I talked earlier about the connection between leadership's vision and challenge, or breakthrough strategies or breakthrough objectives. This is out here on the right-hand side. This is the task for leaders, establishing an organization's strategic concept, the overall direction, kind of the theme of where we need to take the organization. Now what we also have, and what Mike helped operationalize based on his study at Toyota, is a task for managers, a way to day-to-day coach through the application of the improvement kata in their area or level of responsibility. So again, the role of a challenge is that link between the task for leaders and the day-to-day management of moving the organization forward to achieving that challenge. Visions are, again, just distant, vague, far away, may never get there, often principle-based, destinations. A little bit closer in, we have this challenge, which is hard, concrete, metric-based, time-based, that we need to achieve. And then we have this daily routine of overcoming obstacles to achieve target conditions 1 week to 3 months out. So those are kind of that first step, grasping this vision and challenge. The next step is grasping our current condition as it relates to that challenge, then setting that target condition, and then overcoming obstacles, that fourth routine. And you can see these are all in alignment across the entire organization, all members of the organization marching in step to this common vision and oftentimes common challenges. And this is a skill. We believe this is ultimately these behaviors are, and the mastery of the skill, the mastery of the behavior is skill development. And the way we do that is through coaching, right? We have a routine. We practice it, hopefully daily, to embed. Neuroscience says that's the best way to learn something new. Practice it a little bit every day. And if we have effective coaching with corrective feedback, we can ultimately master that skill, and our self-efficacy, our self-confidence is another way to do it, and our comfortableness with striving for far-out tough challenges increases. So again, those routines along the way, the learner is practicing, but again, they're right there being coached along the way. These first routines, the coach is helping, instructing, really helping the learner through these routines. And once we're out here, once we begin to apply the scientific method and overcoming obstacles through experimentation, this is where the formal coaching kata or coaching routine occurs. And it takes place at each step along the way, right? The learner is setting up plan, do, check, act cycles. They lay out their experiment. They lay out what they expect, their hypothesis. They have a coaching cycle, and the coach walks them through these 5 categories of questions that represent kind of a thought process. It starts out with the what are we striving for? What's our actual condition now? What obstacles do we think are preventing us from achieving that target condition? Which one are you addressing? So it funnels us down to that one obstacle we're addressing. And now what's that one next step or experiment? What do you expect to happen? I.e., what's your hypothesis? And then when can we go and see what we have learned from taking that step? And that routine is repeated every step, and preferably daily. And we like to think of this kind of activity occurring in 30, 60, 90-minute kind of plan, do, check, act cycles, not daily, weekly, monthly plan, do, check, act cycles, but just a small segment of every day. Now, as I spoke to earlier, the coach has to have this, has to be, one, qualified, and two, they have to be vested in the results the learner is striving to achieve. So in this example, this gentleman here is the learner. They're the natural, he is the natural process owner for this process. This is a storyboard where all of the documents used in the improvement kata are laid out, visible for everyone in the organization to see. So this is his coach in this case, and this coach has actually been in the role of the learner for some time. So he is qualified as a learner, ergo he's qualified to now teach it. Before you can coach it or teach it, you have to be able to do it. So the coach is qualified. The coach is also vested in the results this learner is striving to achieve. And that typically means that this coach is within the chain of command, or at least the chain of accountability for this learner. This isn't coaching done by, let's say, staff level. It doesn't come in from the side, per se. It's not a staff level coach. It's actually through that chain of command and or chain of accountability if you're in a matrix organization. And it's their boss, right? Direct or indirect, but that person, it's a person who has learned the routine and is held accountable for the results. And so typically the learner might be a supervisor and their coach is a manager, as an example. Could be the learner is a manager and the supervisor is a value stream chain owner, depending on your organization. But what's critical about this relationship is that it really helps to build really strong relationships through this chain of command or chain of accountability. And the focus is on skill development of these learners and assuring alignment throughout the organization to the leadership's vision and challenge. And so this is MJ. This is where I was kind of thinking that you know, you've seen the results. You've got some practitioners in your organization. Could you maybe talk a little bit about, you know, can you share some observations in the changing relationship you've seen between a few of your learner-coach pairs in your organizations? I've got some of your key points here, but if you could talk us through that. I know you and I talked about what you've observed, and I think that'd be important for you to share.
Anyone that has worked in a industrial environment, manufacturing environment, knows that, you know, production, schedule, cost, safety, all those things come into play. And in doing that, we run into obstacles. We call it troubleshooting. We have issues, we have problems, we have things that don't work. And a lot of times the immediate reaction is to just do something. Let's just go do something, so we put a Band-Aid on it and fix it for a few minutes. And one of the things that we have observed, me personally, is this change in focus from using an opinion or a guess or let's just grab it out of the air and hope it works to a more fact-based, data-driven approach to troubleshooting your processes. Along with that, there is a storyboard, and you saw an example of that in one of the slides that Beth had up previously. That is a truly visible example to all of the team members in the area, all of the management, and anyone that you would want to take on tour through that area of where your process is, where your obstacles are, and what the steps that you've taken to correct any of those obstacles or get rid of those obstacles are. You can also readily measure improvement in your processes. From an HR perspective, I found myself asking my boss, who said, I want you to go to this training. I said, why? And I have found out why. as an HR person, folks in your facility look to you as an example. They look to you for leadership. They look to you for guidance. And having HR buy in and be a part of this process is critical to the success of it, in my opinion and from my experience. I was able to get out on the shop floor and actually be a learner in a production area, even though I wasn't the process owner. As part of the learning in the boot camps that we had, I was the learner on one of our lines. I learned a lot about the process and the facility, but I was out there side by side with the people that we've hired and the people that we work with every day. That means a lot to those employees, and that also meant a lot to me from an HR perspective. It gives us a whole different look on where we are. But as far as our coach and learner relationship, I believe that we have a strengthening in our work areas. We've moved from this directive approach, you will go out, you will do this, you will fix this, to show me where you are today, what is your target condition. We're all working to the same vision, and it has led to more of a mentoring, coaching environment, which has developed our managers without them really knowing we're developing them, and it has also developed our learners, our coaches, our second coaches.
Excellent. Excellent. So, I mean, from a human resources perspective, the development of your managerial skill set has to be a huge objective of your personal goals and objective, and your deliverable, I would say, to the organization is to help develop that managerial skill. And so I'm glad to hear that this has been a way to help you deliver to that objective. Excellent. So I'm gonna anything else, MJ? Great, thank you.
No, that's it.
Okay, so at the end of the day, you know, this is the end result. This is what we're ultimately looking for, right? This chain of command, or what I would call maybe chain of accountability in matrix organizations, where this individual is a learner to their direct supervision, and this person is a coach to their subordinate. At the same time, this person is a learner to their direct supervision, and this person is a coach to their subordinate, and it continues on up throughout the chain of command or chain of accountability across the entire organization. Again, this is a really a structured approach that helps get alignment across the organization to top leadership's vision and objective. And if this is what the end game looks like, if this is what, you know, full saturation of this learner-coach relationship might look like, how do we get there? And this is really about how to deploy across an organization. So what I'm going to do is just kind of walk you through a little bit, and we're going to talk about a critical role called the advanced group. The advanced group, MJ mentioned that earlier in the presentation. She was a member of the advanced group. She was actually coaching the site leader or general manager, who was the learner in their Kata deployment. He owned the process of Kata deployment at the site, so he was the natural process owner for Kata deployment. So he was the learner, MJ was his coach, and they were part of this advanced group. I'm going to pop ahead to this slide, and I'll come back to the deployment in just a second. So this is what we call our the Improvement Kata Learning Roadmap. And it could almost be applied to any kind of skill development. It starts here at the beginning, kind of passive awareness, right? You might read a book, an article, online materials, heck, come to a webinar, right? This passive kind of learning, just to become aware. The next step is to begin to get some initial coach practice. It could be a one-day event, what we call an improvement kind of experience. It could be a seminar. practitioner day, on-site practice, all sorts of things. It could be a 3-day Kata skill camp. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, come back to it at the end of the presentation. But there's a 3-day Kata skill camp coming up towards the end of April, the 28th, 29th, and 30th, that W3 Group, in partnership with Lean Frontiers, we're going to be hosting a 3-day site in the Columbus, Ohio area, where we have a host site that a company opening their doors to allow people to come in and practice these skills on their processes. Then what most organizations do and most individuals is you come to a decision point that says, yes, this is a behavior, this innovative, adaptive, continuous improvement behavior that we want to embed across our organization to develop this skill and spread it across the site. That's when then we believe you begin this formation of an advanced group. And this advanced group are the first wave of skill development people. You might have some additional key potential coaches, but this advanced group goes through skill development, as MJ said. So she learned personally what those 4 routines of the improvement kata. She practiced the coaching kata so that she could then be available to train others. And that's what we're looking at here is we form this advanced group, about 5 to 7 people, some key people in your organization. Site executive, senior executive member is, I think, critical to that advanced group. HR leadership is critical to that advanced group. And then other operations leadership, operational leadership in the area where you're initially going to deploy. And then a couple, 2 to 4 others that are key managers that are really going to help deploy across the organization. So they learn first, practicing for about 3 months in various areas. So MJ, you were a learner for a month in one of your operations. Then you were a coach for a month, and then a second coach for a month. And we hope by the end of that time you've actually toggled over into skill development, and now you're able to coach others, and you just begin to deploy wave upon wave, utilizing your internal coaching capacity that you've developed to go maybe a little bit broader in a coach's span of control and a little bit deeper, i.e. closer to the transactional or manual processes through supervisors and through your potential, if you have them, team leaders across your organization. Again, the target audience at the beginning is really the middle managers, right? They have the largest span of influence of behavior, and we train there first so that they can then train their other subordinates across their span of control and deeper. We recommend you go slower rather than faster. It's the increasing number of managers in the organization who are proficient coaches that are going to limit the speed. The more coaches you have, the more exponential this deployment can look. The less qualified managers you have, the slower it's going to go. So I wanted to just hear a little bit, MJ, you were in the role of the coach for your site leader, the general manager, as part of the advanced group. Could you kind of tell us a bit about what that looked like, and from a human resources perspective, maybe why it was important you were on that advanced group, and what did you learn?
Beth, you mentioned earlier taking folks outside their comfort zone.
Yep.
This was definitely I was out of my comfort zone, where my general manager was the learner and I was coaching him. And I was definitely used to being the learner and him being the coach. So it definitely took me outside of the comfort zone there. It took several of our leadership team who were members of the advanced group outside of their comfort zone. But the learning that takes place within that 3-month period of learner, coach, and second coach roles is exponential. You develop skills, you learn the repeatable work pattern, standard of work that can take the entire organization from a group of people that are possibly going in 30 directions to a group of people that are all going in the same direction, which is ultimately achieving your vision and your challenge for your organization. Learning the behavior, I will be very honest. HR folks are supposed to be honest. It is not easy. It is definitely a challenge, but as with all things in life, those things that come easy are not always worth it. The PDCA cycles, the plan, do, check, act cycles, definitely give that standard of work focus to what we're doing and how we're all moving in that direction. And as far as HR being involved, originally I thought it was just because I was responsible for training, but it's beyond that. HR is now, if you're in an HR role and you're not becoming a strategic partner with your organization, you're not fulfilling that role to the best of your capability. So as a change agent and aligning strategically with the organization, it's essential for HR to be involved in moving the corporation forward to their vision and goals. And this is definitely one way that HR can fulfill that role.
Excellent. Thank you, MJ. That's a brilliant observation, that critical strategic partner role of the organization. You know, a human resources organization is fulfilling, you know, helping the organization, what do we want to say, fulfill its destiny, right? And the only way we're going to do that is through the skill development of our people. And we believe that, you know, I have definitely had my paradigm shift around what this role of continuous improvement and developing skill, you know, just we have to continuously develop the innovation and adaptive skills of our people, or we'll become stagnant, and there is no status quo, right? You'll be swarmed. So you have to continuously move forward. So anything else, MJ? Thank you for that last note, that strategic partner role of human resources. I think that's critical element.
The only thing I would have to add is HR as a whole is we're faced with more challenges now than I think we ever have been, and I believe that the Kata can help lead us beyond where we are today to where we need to be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, good. Thank you. All right. Thanks, MJ. I see we're getting close to our time. We're doing pretty well. I just wanted to just kind of open it up a little bit to maybe show you, point some of you in a direction where maybe you could learn more. We will be posting this webinar, Lean Frontiers will be doing that for us, and it will show up on their website. It will also show up on the W3 group website. So this is the W3 resources, and this presentation will be here on the presentations tab. It will also show up on our YouTube site, so you can click there to go right to our YouTube site, where there is a vast array of other presentations, both around Kata as well as some general neuroscience, psychology studies, and that are just, you know, about scientific thinking and learning new skills. So it's a great resource for you out there. There's also links to other websites around the world that are just popping up all over the place around this fun topic. There's also the Lean Frontiers website. 2 events coming up. One is in February. It's a 2-day Kata Summit. Mike Rother, Jeff Leiker, Bill Costantino, leaders from industries deploying Kata will be there giving keynote addresses. We'll be doing some actual practice with our improvement kata experience. It will open up the participants to getting some actual coached experience in a fun and interactive format. And then we'll also be holding sessions on how to deploy. And that's February 18th and 19th down in Fort Lauderdale. There's also a tag-on event on the 20th that is actually at BE Aerospace, and they're a practitioner site, and they're opening up their facility for a benchmark on February 20th. And you can register for this on the Lean Frontiers website or just Google Kata Summit. The other activity is this 3-day intense workshop going to be held at Columbus, Ohio. We're partnering with Hirschvogel. There's also another company in the area called Mancor, so we're going to have 2 sites available. And this is a 3-day intense workshop. You'll have master coaches there, and we'll actually practice these routines on real processes in 2 different businesses in different aspects of their business. And that's April 28th, 29th, and 30th. You can learn more, go on the Lean Frontiers or the W3 website. So I wanted to make sure you had those avenues to learn more, and you know, ultimately just MJ and I would be wishing you success in your kata deployment. And as I said, throughout this presentation, you probably heard me say kata, kata, kata many times. So go forth and kata. With that, I'd like to open it up to some Q&A. So Dwayne, any questions that we can address, either MJ or I, from the participants?
Yes, Beth. Question actually came in for MJ. So MJ, the question says, what did you find was most challenging when you started implementing kata? And then what were your objectives, and did you reach your goal? If you need me to repeat any parts of that breakdown, let me know.
Okay. Most challenging, I would have to say that the most challenging piece was switching from my normal reporting relationship with the general manager to being the general manager's coach, and trying to lead and direct his thoughts and his focus without really giving him direction. So it was hard for me to be a mentor in that role. And as far as objectives, what did we? Can you repeat the second part of that question, please?
What were your objectives, and did you reach your goal?
Our objectives as a advanced group were to train the advanced group and then to deploy ourselves as second coaches to what we call the second wave of Toyota Kata practitioners. We were successful in doing that. We still have teams, Kata teams in production areas and other areas of the facility that are administrative, that are actively performing the kata on a daily basis.
And just what kind of goals were the teams able to accomplish? Do you have insight or any specific goals that they may have reached in their deployment?
Yes, one of our production areas was picked as the first area to deploy, and they were initially working a very sporadic schedule, sometimes 12 hours a day. We're not meeting production quantities on a regular basis, and experienced a lot of downtime with a couple of pieces of machinery. We were able to turn that process around. We are on a 4-10 schedule here, so those guys were able to get down to 10 hours a day, met their production numbers and eliminated a huge majority of their machine downtime, which was readily visible on that team's storyboard when you went out into the shop area. And, of course, that affected our bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, MJ, if I could, I'm going to jump in just a comment here, because I get questions about this a lot from the field, and I think you've made it clear. A lot of people I talk to are thinking about deploying, think they have to get stability first and then deploy the Kata. You know, and I think you've got that perfect example where you had chaos, right? You didn't have a routine schedule, you weren't meeting production, you had sporadic downtime. You used Kata to gain stability within that process. And I remember that very distinctly as we were rolling out in that area. It was very chaotic. The other item I remembered you striving for and working towards was developing a role of a lead operator. You had it was like everybody was doing out-of-cycle work, and no one person was specifically assigned to do that and assigned to do some of the continuous improvement. And if memory serves me right, you were working towards creating in your organization some of your first team leaders. Is my memory serving me correctly, or am I off base there?
We had a team lead who was performing probably 90% of his job was actually operating one of the machines on the line. So our goal was to free up 25% to 50% of his time, take him away from that equipment and allow him to work on continuous improvement activities, whether that be data collection or some other form of continuous improvement around the Kata. If memory serves me correctly, we were able to free him up for the 25% of the time. I haven't been connected with that team enough to know where they are today.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Dwayne, I went a little bit long on that, but interesting.
Yeah, that's quite all right. Yeah, it was very interesting. So another question came in, and Beth, this may be more for you, but MJ, certainly feel free to kick in. Have you had experience deploying Kata methods in knowledge work environments as opposed to manufacturing? So, and this person is pointing out the key difference being the lack of process visibility in knowledge work environments.
Right, right. So a couple of key points, and then MJ, if you have any thing to add. The easiest, of course, is learning labs, we'll call it, a place to hone your initial skill, is in the repetitive manufacturing environment. You know, that's the book was written, and a lot of the initial training was around that kind of environment. But not many of us work in that kind of environment. So yes, we have been working with a lot of organizations, whether that is in project management or product engineering. We're working in the banking industry where everything is transactional and hidden. There's also been a lot of work in software development. And again, at the KataCon, we're going to do a whole segment on software development where they've actually been deploying Kata within two or three organizations. We're going to have practitioners there talking about how they went about it and what they've been accomplishing. So this is applicable. It's harder to hone skill because it's harder to see the effects of a PDCA sometimes, but any kind of process, at the base of it, there is a pattern of work. And what you're trying, in essence, to do is to identify what your current pattern of work is and what results you're achieving from that current pattern or that current way of doing to create a new desired way of doing to get a new result. And any process, whether that is cerebral or knowledge management or transactional or manual, there is a base pattern of work. Within our own business, we use Kata to deploy a lot of our activities, and and around new offerings, around new capability. We use the improvement kata, coaching kata, within our own business, consulting business. So it is applicable, and it is you are able to use it. MJ, any thoughts around that? Are you deploying? I think we were doing some work in the product development, or at maybe that wasn't product development, that was quotation, but brand new quotation processes when I was there last. Any thoughts on that?
We have 2 active Kata teams here currently. One is in program management and business development, and the other is in the maintenance area. I think the biggest thing that we struggle with in those areas is grasping the current condition and trying to keep those efforts away from being project-based. When you're moving away from a repetitive, timed production manufacturing environment and you're moving to pieces of paper or documents, it's a little harder to measure, it's a little harder to capture, but it can be done.
Excellent. Good insight. Yeah. Okay, hope we've answered the question.
Okay, so looks like one final question came in here just now. Haven't had a chance to process this much, but how did you get employees to retain or understand Kata deployment methods?
So I'll have to process the question a little bit. I hope I hit the mark. This advanced group, in my experience with multitude of organizations, you start small and you build on that layer by layer. If you try to do a mass, training event around Kata, you don't have the coaching capacity to actually begin to have people practice deliberately and practice diligently and practice correctly. Just like TWI, we're going to be doing a webinar next week with the TWI community, and just like in training within industry, if you're trying to learn a new skill, you break it into small little chunks and you practice it in these small chunks, and you practice under the guidance of a coach, a teacher. So there is immediate course correction. So you're not just practicing, but you're practicing properly. You're practicing perfectly, right? It's not just practice. It's deliberate practice, and it's perfect practice that helps you build new skill. So start with this core group and let that core group be your first wave. That will include your advanced group members and some other people that may be high potential coaches that you may want to help deploy in other areas. Once you get this advanced group and first wave coaches, now once they have skill on the Dreyfus level of at least competent, and I know I'm throwing that new term, but if you read the literature, it's out there in the Kata community. Once they get confident skill level, then they're able to teach the next wave, and then from there it gets exponential. But don't go too fast, too soon. Start with a core group, really embed the skill so that they can train the next wave. And then once the next wave is trained, they're able to do it. Now you've got more coaches. And then those people can become coaches, and then coaches, and it becomes exponential. But to coach it, you have to know how to do it. Bottom line, you have to dwell in the role of the learner. You have to dwell in the role of the coach. You have to dwell in the role of the second coach for enough time that you embed the skill so it becomes habitual. As MJ said, changing manager's role from control and directive to more Socratic and mentoring, it's not easy. And until it's embedded as a habitual routine, your old behaviors that are already routinized will take over. And so you've got to replace, your current, potentially, not everyone is there, but most of us were at one point in our managerial career very controlled and directed. That's how we were taught. Results-based, get her done kind of folks. this is different. This is developing skill in others first. The results will come. So it takes time and practice. MJ, any thoughts? Did I hit the mark on that answer, or did I miss?
I believe the employee retention is all key to that daily routine, standard work and the daily routine. And your advanced group will begin to socialize Kata when they begin to train and they begin to implement. They start to then socialize that with other employees and other groups. And when we start to see results, then that gains a lot of momentum within the organization itself. But the retention comes from that daily Kata cycle, the routine.
Okay, well, I thought that was going to be our last question, but Caesar snuck in a question here at the very last moment. And even if more come in, we will make this our last question just to respect the time that we allotted here. And if there are any other questions that come in, we'll answer those offline. So the final question here from Caesar is, why use HR to lead Kata?
It's not, I think it's a logical place. It's not the only place. I think it's a logical place because of the critical role HR plays, as MJ, I think rightly stated and pointed out, is the role of HR, and MJ, I should answer this, but I've already started, because I'm using your words, right, that partnership. HR, I think they used to be, from my perspective, very transactional. It was handbook and, forms and bureaucracy, and I think the role of human resources has changed. It's been an evolution, and there now are, and Jay, I'll use your words, that strategic partner, making the vision and the goals and objectives of the organization become a reality. I think we've come a long way in understanding that is a direct link to the skill of our people. It's not our equipment, it's not our brick and mortar, it's not our products. Yes, that helps us get the foot in the door, but how are we going to stay ahead of the competition is through developing our people. And who better to lead that than the human resources organization? MJ, I didn't mean to answer that. I think you're probably, if you could jump in.
Very well said, Beth. I don't have anything to add. I would just be repeating what you said, but that is the true reason. We are the strategic partner.
Yeah. Excellent.
Great. Well, Beth, MJ, thank you both for taking time out of your day and facilitating our session. As previously mentioned, today's webinar has been recorded, and we will make this available to you. So you can look for an email from me following our time together. Feel free to share this, obviously, with others in your organization, as well as reviewing it yourself. And Beth mentioned a couple of resources, upcoming resources. I will also include those in an email. So things like the upcoming Kata Summit down in Fort Lauderdale, the Kata Skill Camp in April in Columbus, Ohio. And then Beth touched on TWI. There's also an opportunity for those in HR. We are jointly holding the Lean HR Summit and the TWI Summit together down in Jacksonville in mid-May. So I will provide those resources if any of those would be helpful to you in your own personal journeys. So again, thank you, Beth. Thank you, MJ. And thanks to each of you for participating in today's session. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.